He walked into a regular gym like any other day, but minutes later, Tekashi 6ix9ine was walking out with blood on his face, fans stunned, cameras rolling, and suddenly everyone online was asking the same question. Was this attack random, revenge, or something much deeper connected to the past he thought he left behind? Because what happened inside that South Florida LA Fitness didn't just shock people, it reopened years of controversy surrounding one of hip-hop's most polarizing figures, and the story actually starts long before that moment when the viral clip showed him stumbling through the gym hallway while someone behind the camera whispered, "They got him good." Because if you rewind the timeline just a little, you realize this incident wasn't happening in isolation at all. It was happening after years of headlines, courtrooms, betrayals, and a reputation that made him one of the most recognizable and targeted faces in rap. And according to the Los Angeles Times, deputies responded to an altercation at a Lake Worth gym on March 21st, 2023, after multiple people reportedly confronted the rapper inside the facility, which immediately raised questions online about whether he still had security around him or whether he had started moving differently after returning to public life following prison and house arrest periods tied to his earlier federal case involving the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods. And what shocked fans even more was that he appeared to be alone at the time, something many people said felt unusually risky for someone whose legal cooperation against gang members years earlier had already made him one of the most controversial figures in modern hip-hop history. Because when Tekashi 6ix9ine testified in federal court back in 2019, he avoided a possible decades-long sentence by cooperating with prosecutors, and later received a much shorter sentence before being released early in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to coverage referenced by Variety and other outlets. And ever since that moment, the internet never stopped debating whether he could safely move the same way again, or whether the consequences would follow him long after the courtroom doors closed. And that debate suddenly exploded again the second the gym attack video surfaced online, because according to NBC, Miami footage captured shortly after the incident showed the rapper with visible facial injuries walking through the facility, while people nearby reacted in real time, which instantly turned the situation into viral social media fuel, as fans, critics, and even other artists began reacting within hours. And what made everything feel even more surreal was how ordinary the setting looked. No stage lights, no security detail, just a neighborhood gym bathroom, where, according to reports from NDTV citing statements from his attorney, the rapper was approached by 3 or 4 individuals inside the sauna area before the confrontation escalated into an assault that left him with cuts and bruises and required hospital treatment. And suddenly the internet started asking how someone so famous could be caught off guard like that in such a public space, especially someone whose entire career had been built around visibility, controversy, and confrontation. And that's when another twist entered the story, because within days, authorities confirmed arrests connected to the incident, with the Los Angeles Times reporting that 3 suspects were located and taken into custody following the investigation, which shifted the narrative again from mystery to accountability, but still didn't answer the biggest question fans kept asking: why did it happen at all? Because officials never publicly confirmed a clear motive, leaving space for speculation online where some people connected the attack to his history with gang testimony while others argued it could have been something more spontaneous or personal, and that uncertainty only added to the strange energy surrounding the situation, because this wasn't the first time his past had followed him into the present, and anyone who had been watching his career since the late 2010s already knew that controversy had almost become part of his brand, whether he wanted it or not, because before the gym incident ever happened, he had already lived through one of the most dramatic legal sagas in modern hip-hop history, after pleading guilty to multiple charges tied to racketeering activities connected to the 9 Trey organization, and later cooperating with federal prosecutors in testimony that helped secure convictions against several former associates. A move that dramatically shortened his sentence, but also changed how parts of the rap world viewed him permanently. And when he returned home in 2020, fans expected either a quiet reset or a loud comeback. But instead, what they got was something even stranger, because he leaned straight back into the spotlight, posting videos, releasing music, and openly addressing critics online in a way that kept him trending even when he wasn't dropping songs. And that strategy worked, at least in terms of visibility, because his name never disappeared from headlines, but it also meant every public appearance carried a layer of unpredictability that most artists never experience. and by the time the 2023 gym attack happened, many fans were already wondering whether the intense attention surrounding him made everyday situations more complicated than they appeared on the surface, especially since he continued appearing publicly without the heavy security presence people expected after his testimony years earlier. And when the footage circulated showing him leaving the gym injured yet still walking under his own power, the internet reacted in completely different ways at the same time, because some supporters expressed concern for his safety, while critics pointed to his past controversies as context for why they believed incidents like this were almost inevitable. And what made the moment especially unusual was how quickly it became a social media spectacle rather than just a crime report, with clips spreading across Instagram and TikTok within hours as viewers debated what exactly they were seeing and how serious the situation really was. And according to reports referenced by Entertainment Weekly, suspects were arrested in connection with the assault and robbery investigation, but the motive remained unclear publicly, which only deepened the mystery around what really triggered the confrontation inside that gym in the first place. And then something even more interesting happened, because instead of disappearing from public view after the incident, the rapper continued showing signs that he planned to keep moving forward publicly rather than retreating completely from the spotlight, which surprised people who expected him to stay out of sight longer after such a viral moment. And that reaction itself told you something important about how unusual his career path has always been compared with most artists in his position, because controversy has followed him almost like a shadow since the earliest days of his breakout success, starting with his explosive rise through viral tracks like Gomo and Fefe that turned him into one of the internet's most talked about rap figures practically overnight. And from that moment forward, his story rarely followed the traditional arc of fame where attention gradually stabilizes over time. Instead, it seemed to spike again and again whenever something unexpected happened, whether it was music releases, legal developments, or social media clashes, and the gym attack suddenly became another chapter in that unpredictable pattern, because it reminded everyone that even years after his courtroom testimony, the public conversation around him was still shaped by questions about safety, reputation, and consequences. And that's why the viral footage didn't just shock viewers, it triggered a wave of memories about everything that happened before it, including the dramatic courtroom scenes that once dominated national headlines and the early release decision that allowed him to return home sooner than expected during the pandemic period. And when people online connected those earlier events to what happened at the gym, they started asking whether this incident represented closure to a long-running storyline or just another unpredictable turn in a career defined by extremes. And what makes the situation even more complicated is that despite the arrests connected to the assault, the broader cultural conversation about the incident never really settled into one clear explanation. Instead, it stayed divided between those who saw it as a random confrontation and those who believed it reflected deeper tensions tied to earlier chapters in his life. And because of that uncertainty, the moment kept circulating online long after the headlines faded, becoming one of those clips people still reference whenever his name trends again. And maybe the strangest part of the entire situation is how quickly attention shifted from the attack itself to what happened next. Because instead of disappearing completely, he continued appearing publicly, posting updates, and moving forward in ways that showed he wasn't stepping away from visibility, even after a moment that would have convinced many artists to do exactly that. And that reaction alone left fans wondering whether controversy had simply become part of his long-term story, whether he liked it or not. Because every time something dramatic happens around him, it seems to spark another round of debate about how much of his public image is performance, how much is consequence, and how much is coincidence. And now, years later, people still replay that hallway footage asking the same question they asked the first time they saw it. Was that just another viral moment, or was it a warning sign about what fame looks like when the past never fully disappears? So whether you see the LA Fitness incident as a random confrontation or part of a much bigger story, one thing is clear. Tekashi 6ix9ine's life after release never became quiet the way many people expected. And if something like this could happen in a normal gym in the middle of the day, what do you think could happen next? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for the next breakdown of stories everyone is talking about but nobody fully understands yet.